Welcome to Reading on Headlines, where I read the tarot on news headlines. This is a place where tarot meets progressive politics, and I offer insights on the mess that is politics and media. On today's episode, we're covering the Dutch election results and the ceasefire in Gaza. Now, if you can tell by my voice, I am quite sick. Usually, I like to film and upload these podcast episodes on Saturdays. Today is Sunday. Yesterday, I was feeling really, really sick. To be honest, I'm not really feeling much better today, but I didn't want to skip this week's episode because I do think we have some important topics to talk about. And I'm going to start with the election results in the Netherlands. That's very close to me because I'm Dutch. I voted in these elections, and the election results are very, very disappointing. And I wanted to talk about them, and I wanted to talk about what's going on in Europe in general as a trend that we have been seeing over the last couple of years, and it's worrisome. It's very worrisome. And I know that I have quite a few European listeners. You guys are from all over Europe, many of you. So I know that I'm not the only one who is worried about this. So this is the news article about PVV. I'm going to say it in Dutch, okay? Otherwise, if I say it in English, PVV, I'm not going to be able to talk about this normally. The success of Geert Wilders' far-right PVV raises fears for Dutch climate policies, to say the least. There's a lot of shit in his, and we're going to go over that as well, in his party program, things that he advocates for, things that he thinks are important and will solve all sorts of problems. And it's all worrisome. Yeah, it says here the party has a hostile stance on attempts to cut carbon emissions, but got more votes than any other in general election. Yeah, so how it works in, I'm going to stop sharing so I can explain. How it works in the Netherlands is that we have our parliament, and that has 150 seats. And those are all filled in proportion to how we vote in our elections. We have had like over 20 different political parties in our election, like that we can vote on for this election. I don't remember on the top of my head how many actually got enough votes to fill seats, but the PVV got like 36, 37 of those seats. So they got the majority of, like, not the majority of the 150, because this is not a two-party system that we have in the Netherlands. And I know that a lot of other European countries have a similar system to the Netherlands, so I won't have to explain too much. But the biggest party is PVV. And I'm not going to share the Wikipedia page because it's in Dutch, but it's the only way that I found it. I found this to be the best way to sort of tell you what this party is about. So we already talked about how the PVV is very much against like all the climate policies. And that is because the PVV believes that there's no such thing as a climate crisis, or they just don't think that should be any subsidizing for the climate policies. So he wants to cut that. Now, I do want to say that because of the system in the Netherlands, the political system, it doesn't mean that all of his party points, everything that he wants to do, also will get done. But it is worrisome that this party was the biggest in the Netherlands. Oh, my nose is itching. I'm so sorry. So the PVV is populist, right wing. A lot of people see them as right extremism. I do as well. I also see it as a very racist political party because the most well known that this party is most well known for their criticism, quote unquote, on the Islam. He thinks that there is this spread of Islam in the Netherlands, in Europe, and he thinks that it imposes on our freedoms, this spread of Islam. And he thinks that it is hurting our care system. He thinks that it's hurting our economy, our education, all of that. He also doesn't see the Islam as a religion, but he sees it as a wait, let me see how I need to translate that. Totalitarian, I don't know how to pronounce that, ideology. So yeah, he also wants to prohibit, ban basically the Quran. Yeah, so that is just some of the things on the Islam, and he wants to stop basically all immigration. And then he also has party program. He wants the Netherlands to get out of the EU, so he wants like a Nexit, which is not a good idea. He wants to go back to our previous currency, which is definitely not a good idea. He wants a lot more cops on the street. He wants any immigrants that, like, I don't know, do a crime to get kicked out of the country. He basically wants to stop having people having a double nationality. And then, of course, there is, let me actually Google that exactly, what their stance is on the climate, because it doesn't really talk about that a lot on the Wikipedia page. Yeah, he thinks that it's a climate hobby, is what he says. Basically, the PVV wants to get rid of all the climate policies. Yeah, no more money to climate and culture. He wants the immigration, the asylum seeking to stop completely. And it's just not reasonable. It's not feasible. You can't go like I read this super interesting article. It is in Dutch. It's by the Correspondent, so they're kind of left leaning, but they wrote that this article says that there is this thing like nostalgic nationalism, where they crave a past and an idea that they have about the past that isn't really true, that never really was there, and is also not feasible to sort of go back there. And that is very interesting to see. So what I want to know first is, what can we expect in the Netherlands now that PVV won the elections? It's very worrisome, but I want to know what we can expect in the Netherlands. Let's see. We have the Magician, the Page of Swords, and the Queen of Pentacles. So people are not gonna, I don't think people are gonna accept this election results. Like they're not just gonna accept them. We already have seen some demonstrations, people being extremely disappointed with the election results. And I think that with the Magician here, I think that's kind of scary, because this is about manifesting, putting things into place. So I do think that we're going to see some of these policies that Geert Wilders wants to implement. I do think we're going to see them implemented. There's still a long way when it comes to formation, and this card also popped up, which I think is interesting, because the Queen of Pentacles is about nature, and that is kind of what what Geert Wilders kind of wants to destroy, I guess, to say it in that way. But one of the options that we have, as like in the formation of the coalition of the parliament, is that if PVV cannot find a formation with other parties, because there are a lot of political parties that have said, yeah, we're not going to work with PVV because of his extreme views on the Islam, on immigration, and how, and a lot of people say that it's inhumane, it's anti, like the not necessarily anti-democratic, I mean, I guess also, but it's just, again, that he is against and wants to kick out and not include, like he wants to exclude such a big part of the like Dutch people. And a lot of people that don't want to work with Geert Wilders because of that. And so if the formation cannot be made, then that means that there are other parties that could step in and make a formation, maybe. And the second biggest party was GroenLinks PvdA, which is a collaboration between the Green Party and the Labour Party. That's the one that I voted for. So I'm glad that they at least like I don't know, got second place, but they are behind with like over 10 seats. So that shows how much of a jump there is between the PVV and the second place. So the Queen of Pentacles can indicate either that like nature won't stop, like Geert Wilders might want to get rid of all the climate subsidizing and all the climate policies, but nature doesn't really care about elections. It doesn't really care because it's just gonna keep going. And I also see people trying to individually care, do more things, but the thing is that us as individuals, we can and should do what we can to help the climate. You know, I've been vegan for over 8 years now. I try to be very conscious of my ecological footprint, but it's not enough. You know, it's just me by myself. Even if the whole of the Netherlands became vegan, that's still not enough because there's just so much that needs to be done from a bigger point. You know, the companies and the government policies, they have to be there, and they have to, you know, more has to happen than that even. So that's kind of terrifying. So on one hand, I'm feeling like things will just things will just go past. And the Page of Swords here feels to me, sometimes I see this as a card of curiosity, but right now I see it as like the sword of truth. The sword, like the sword I can't pronounce because I'm still sick. The sword of truth, where okay, you're gonna implement all these shit policies, and you want to like, I guess, revoke all the climate policies. This is what you're gonna get if you don't like we're gonna see the consequences. It's gonna be like I said, a sword of truth. So that's kind of terrifying, and that is one way that I see it going. I hope that is not the case. I hope that we're somehow able to save our country, I guess, from that. But it's terrifying that like 2.5 million people, is it 2.5? No, I think it's about 2 million. 2 million Dutch people voted PVV. They don't care about Muslims. They don't care about the climate. And it's and not just like Muslims, immigration. They don't care about people besides themselves, of course. If you're white. Um, okay. I also want to know, what does this mean for right wing extremism in Europe? And I've talked about this before I started this podcast. I did political live stream tarot readings. And I talked about right wing extremism in Europe before. So, what does it mean? It's so interesting because the Nine of Cups to me is about satisfaction, or like here you can see it as blooming, but and it's a pretty card, but when you think of right wing extremism blooming, it's not pretty. This almost feels like the wrong deck to use right now. But yeah, it's gonna grow, and I think that at first it's gonna seem satisfying for people. At first it's gonna seem like it works. Um and that more, I don't know if more countries are gonna join it. We have the Two of Pentacles, which is about priorities. We have Six of Pentacles, giving and taking. So I think that we're definitely gonna see the consequences, especially if more European countries, we're gonna see these right wing extremist parties get into power, which is fucking terrifying. We saw it happen in Italy already. Yeah. We saw it happen in Sweden as well, by the way. It's unfortunate. One last card. Emperor. This is the sad reality of that we are not in charge. And it's not a this is not a comforting message. I'm actually getting goosebumps because of like how uncomfortable it is. We are not in charge. The visionaries, the progressives, we know what's going to happen to our country, to our continent, to our earth if we don't, hurry up with the climate policies and everything. And I think it feels very disappointing that not everybody sees this. And I think we're going to feel some of that. I think we're going to feel some of that because the priorities are not in order. And I do think that when, I don't want to say when it's too late, but at a certain point when we've had some more consequences, and even the climate crisis deniers can almost no longer deny it. I mean, we're already there, right? But at some point, the priorities are going to shift, I think. I hope that that is what the Two of Pentacles means. Ugh. Okay. Well, I'm cleaning off these cards to go to our next reading. I also want to do a little short plug for my tarot readings. I do tarot readings. You can book one with me on my website, tarotwithruby.com/tarot, and I can provide insights and guidance into your situation. We can go over actionable steps, how to go forward. I like to do very solution-based readings instead of just the problems. I mean, the political tarot readings are a little bit different. But for private and my personal also readings, I like to be very solution-based. Okay. Then next, I'm going to share the headline. So right now there is a ceasefire going on in Gaza. It says here the headline: Palestinians search for loved ones and check damaged homes. It's really sad. There's also a lot going on with Israel supposedly not sticking to the promises when it comes to trucks entering Gaza with supplies, with food, all of that. And I just want to know, I want to take a look at Israel's intent with the ceasefire and what we can expect after. Because right now, yeah, it's great. There's a ceasefire and people in Gaza can have a little bit of calm after 6 weeks of constant bombing. But I know that there's still fear of what is going to happen after. There's all these hostages exchanges. It's also very interesting to see how the news is formulating all of it, because it's the Israeli are hostages from Hamas, but the Palestinians in Israel are prisoners. Is feeding people a certain narrative. So, yeah, I want to know Israel's intent with the ceasefire. So we have the star want to give a vision of hope. They want to show how generous and kind they are. But behind the scenes, there is work going on. The Eight of Pentacles is about routines. And so I do think that right now with the ceasefire, they're trying to show like, oh, we're the bigger side. We are giving this, or we are okay with the ceasefire. Yeah, because you're the one bombing them. And they want to show this little bit of hope, I guess, also for the Israeli side, mostly for the Israeli side, but also for people in the West who have been demonstrating or been protesting for 6 weeks straight to stop all the bombing in Gaza. But I do think there's something, like they're hiding behind something. You can see that in the Eight of Pentacles if you're watching the video version of the podcast. They're hiding behind something. They're hiding behind this facade, right? They're hiding behind this image that they want to push forward in the media to the West. I want to finish this reading, but I'm feeling very, very sick. So I'm gonna go to the next question. Like, what can we expect after the ceasefire? What can we expect after? Fucking hell. So I know that the cards in this deck, in all tarot, are metaphors. But I pulled the death card, and somehow I don't think this is a metaphor. Things are not gonna fucking change after the ceasefire. there might be a because a death card doesn't always mean literal death. I mean, we're talking about a fucking war here where one side is bombing the other side. Um and the death card is a metaphor for transformational change. So I hope that this doesn't mean literal death, but we all kind of know that it does. Um, to look at it for a more optimistic side, I guess, it could be that there's a transformation in how the war is viewed by maybe some Western people who were previously pro-Israel or semi-pro-Israel or didn't really know what or how, that after the ceasefire is over and Israel starts bombing Gaza again, that it's gonna sort of sting even more, I guess, because at first this war was used as an excuse of self-defense in Gaza, right? After October 7th, which is now over 6 weeks ago. And it was, quote unquote, because I don't agree with this, easier to defend Israel's actions. But now that they've had the ceasefire, Hamas has, given back a lot of the hostages. We don't know how that's going to end yet, because right now we're still in it's like day 3, I think, of the ceasefire. So we don't know yet how it's going to end. And then if they go back to bombing after the ceasefire, I think it's going to sting even more. And I hope that is the push that is needed for more people to get behind the pro-Palestinian protests, to get behind actually stopping this fucking war and stopping Israel. We have the hanged man. Right now, we're in this limbo phase where we are, and a lot of people are being very vocal about this, not like to not let this ceasefire fool you. But some people are being fooled, I guess, where they feel like it's all on pause right now. I don't know how to say it any other way. It's gonna feel like there's nothing we can do, and that is the hanged man moment, right? That's the hanged man feeling, where you're in this situation and all you can really do is accept it. And that is what the Israeli military and Israeli government wants, right? They just want you to accept it, even when what they're doing is so horrifying. I want to also take a look at Gaza. I want to take a look at the Gaza morale right now during the ceasefire, because I know that there was this Israeli, I don't know, oh, I wanted to look for my phone, but I'm using that as a camera right now to record the podcast. Oops. But I saw this post by Israeli military, or I don't really know what it was, with rules that the Gaza people have to obey, where they can't go near or in the sea, even though water is disconnected, and a lot of Palestinians used the sea to shower, to clean themselves. There are some more rules, like that they can't go to the north of Gaza, even though a lot of people have had to flee the north of Gaza, um, even though they live there because of all the bombing. And now in the ceasefire, they can't go back. They also can't go within a kilometer, which is a kilometer, um, of the Israeli border. So I want to know what the Gaza morale is right now. We have the Ace of Cups and the Knight of Swords. The Ace of Cups to me is love. It's sad, right? They are grateful. They're happy that, happy is a strong word. I guess they just are happy with the ceasefire right now. The Knight of Swords also gives me this feeling of, we're gonna sort of live in the now. We're not gonna worry too much about after the ceasefire. I mean, of course they are, but I think the morale right now is to enjoy the present moment, to enjoy the that they're getting some of their people back, right? Like, a lot of people were in prison in Israel. I mean, they're being released to the West Bank. So they're not necessarily back in Gaza, I think. I don't really know how that is going to work. I'm not really sure Israel really cares about that. But they're just glad that Like, I've seen reels and videos of Palestinian people, Palestinian children walking around and being so happy that there's no bombing, that the sky is clear and that there is silence. And it's both really sad, but it's also heartwarming, um, to see that joy, I guess. I also want to take a look at how we can help. Like, what can we do? Um, we have the Seven of Cups, the Sun. Ooh, getting a lot of cards here. And a Knight of Pentacles. So let's start with the Seven of Cups. The Seven of Cups to me is about distractions. So what we can do is to not get distracted, to not lose focus. Just because there's a ceasefire right now doesn't mean that there's not still a war going on, and that there's not still misinformation going around, that there's still not manipulation going on by the Israeli government and the Israeli military. I want to share with you a podcast episode that I listened to, and I'll link it down below if I don't forget. It is by, oh God, it's I think it's called A Bit Juicy, a podcast. It's by Matt. He is quite popular on Instagram. I share a ton of his posts as well, and he talks about the pinkwashing that happens by Israel. And he is a Jew. He's an American queer Jew, and he talks with an American queer Palestinian. So they have that conversation, and it's really interesting. And I definitely recommend you listen to that. Again, I'll link it down below. But yeah, we have to keep bringing to the light with the Sun card. We have to keep bringing to the light what is going on. We have to not be silent. We have to keep sticking up for these people. We cannot be distracted with, like, oh, there's a ceasefire right now, so I can take a break. Because the people in Gaza, yeah, there's a break from bombing right now, but there's still a lot of fear going on. There's still so much that they need help with, right? And we have the Knight of Pentacles, which again is about keep working, slow and steady wins the race. That, yeah, it might feel so it might be feel so heartbreaking. It is so disappointing that it's still not over, and it's going to be really hard to keep fighting and to keep sharing information, to keep speaking out, especially because there are still a lot of people who don't understand. I follow Kellyanne on Instagram. I have learned a lot from her when it comes to this war. I didn't really know much about the situation in Gaza at all with Palestinians until she posted some things about it over the summer, so even before October 7th. And she has been super vocal about sharing sources, about sharing videos, footage from over there. She's been going to protests. There aren't any protests like near me. I'm also still recovering from burnout, so I don't know if I'm going to a protest. I don't know if that's really going to be something that I'm able to do, but I have made it a point to share something every single day on Instagram, and to keep being vocal, and also to keep talking about it on this podcast. Because, yeah, we can get into fatigue when it comes to this topic, but it's super important to keep being vocal, to keep speaking up, to keep sharing things, even though it's uncomfortable. But what I wanted to say was, Kellyanne still gets messages from people like, okay, I'm going to unfollow you because you support the Palestinians. Like, yeah, we all support the Palestinians because they're the ones being fucking genocided, if that is a word, if that is a verb. And we don't support genocides. So, yeah. Yeah, I want to stop talking now because I feel like absolute fucking shit. Before I do, I want to do the social media minute. I didn't really think about the social media minute because I am filming on my phone, but I do remember Gemma. We follow each other on Instagram. We speak every now and then. And for the social media minutes, I wanted to highlight a comment that she left on my reels. I try to do like a trailer reel for every episode. So if you want to see that, definitely go to my Instagram, Tarot with Ruby. But she commented on my reel saying that she has been listening to my episodes and enjoying them. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you listening. And yeah, go check out my Instagram. And thank you, Gemma. Okay, so You can go to tarotwithruby.com to book a tarot reading with me, or you can also submit any topic requests for the podcast either on Spotify or on Instagram at tarotwithruby. You can DM me. Thank you so much for listening. Stay sane, stay safe, and do some self-care today. Bye.